Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Nice to see you. How are you? Good. Sorry, I'm 3 minutes late. Now 4 minutes. I do private consults as well. So my last client, I was trying to very politely wrap them up, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so I'm here. So thank you all for your patience. I appreciate it.
Sure.
So the one thing I am going to ask you all to do, though, and I need to go and do it as well because I think my children have taken it out of here, we all need to go to our pantry and grab a food item that's got a nutrition label on it, like a nutrition panel, energy, fat, salt, that stuff. So can everyone jump up and go and get something? Because then when we do our nutrition label activity, you'll have something to read. So just go and grab something from your pantry, okay? Anything. It doesn't matter. Okie dokie. Wait for everyone to return. Good job. Thank you for doing that. That's very helpful. That will make the activity a little bit more engaging for you all. So tonight's session is session number 2 and is all about nutrition. So there's sort of a lot of stuff for me to go through tonight. But yes, as always, if you want to ask questions, feel free to do so in the chat box or just jump in when and if you have got something to ask. There's a lot of content for me to go through tonight, so I tend to try to talk quickly, but also not so much that you don't understand what I'm saying. But as always, if you've got questions after tonight and you want to send me an email, please feel free to do so. I just wanted to check in and ask though, did anyone have a chance to do their food and physical activity diary by any chance? See one little, yeah, that's okay, no worries. And how did you go? What did you find, I suppose?
Did you say Anne or Anne?
Yeah, Anne, yep.
Okay, that's right. No, I found it quite good. I did the exercise on the same page as the food.
Mm-hmm.
So I did take on the thing that you said about eating protein 3 times a day, which
good.
I hadn't been doing before. So actually, again, I have to really work out what's actually protein. And no, I didn't mind it actually. And then I just wrote the drinks and the water and all the rest in my activities.
Mm.
As I said, I'm fairly active. It's just the food is the problem, I think, with me.
Yeah, great. That's excellent that you had a bit of a goal to work towards
I
as
did
well.
actually put down everything. When I had a muesli bar and when I had biscuits. So I did try to be truthful.
Yeah. It can be hard being truthful with food diaries. You think, oh, am I going to eat this? Because then I've got to write it down.
Well, that's right.
So it makes you think twice about it a little bit. Anyone else? Does anyone else have any comments they want to make about the food diary?
I managed it for about 3 or 4 days and then I kept forgetting to add liquid.
Yeah, that's right, Joanne.
And then just got to the weekend.
Yeah.
I didn't do mine if I had a busy day and was going out and wasn't here, I didn't do it. So I didn't do it religiously for 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, absolutely. How did you go, Giuseppe? Did you have a go at doing it?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So I tried a few days. Like I must say, it's just sort of being out of the office. It's harder to just sort of break away just some time to work the app. I thought the app was good. I'm using My Fitness Activity.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
So what I like about that is that My Fitness Pal, sorry, that you can enter the weight, you can enter the exercise. I think with the exercises though, it overestimates the amount. Like I think gravely overestimates the amount of calories that it suggests that it's being burnt. Because like I've been reading one thing on the, let's say, an stationary exercise bike, and it's added a few thousand to it in terms of what's listed on the app. It was okay in terms of finding the meals and the snacks that I was eating on the app. There's a lot of coverage. I was impressed with a lot of Australian brands.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time. So I think we're just going to stick to it. I must say, I sometimes when I was initially starting, I was a little bit sneaky, like in terms of like I took a Stalinistic approach in terms of like, I didn't eat that. That didn't happen. But no,
Yeah. Look, and it is just really a good activity just to try, just to sort of see, because a lot of the time there's no one keeping us accountable for what we're eating or how we're eating or anything like that. So it can just be an interesting process just simply to think, this is my routine. This is how I actually do things, So it can just be quite interesting to sort of look internally a little bit as to how we sort of move through our days. So that's good. I'm glad that a few of you had a bit of a go and sort of identified a few things. I do, if you haven't had a chance, there's no worries, but it is a good activity to try and do, definitely. And I will just comment too on the calorie stuff. It is across the board. Calorie in, calorie out is very inaccurate. It's a very tricky thing to actually identify exactly how much energy a person is burning by doing this amount of exercise, or how much calorie intake exactly they are taking in simply from eating a particular type of food. So if you're somebody that's spent a lot of their lives counting calories, it's not a very true science form. It's very difficult to get it accurate. So the apps, you find that they generally will be definitely a little bit out. So, but that's just because I'm a little bit anti counting calories. So you won't hear me promoting them as such so much. But let's get into tonight's content, because it is, I want to get started for you guys. So let me just bring up these slides.
So just Katie, were you going to send out the booklets to us?
Oh, yes. So has Diabetes Victoria sent those out yet? Have you received them?
I haven't.
Has anybody?
No.
Right.
I just didn't know if we had to follow them while you do your talk, or.
No, you don't have to at all, but they should have been sent to you. So let me chase them up.
I did get mine, if that helps. Yeah.
Oh, who was saying that? Is that Dina?
Carolina? Yeah, this one.
Carolina. Yes, you've got yours, have you? Yes, that's the one.
Oh.
Okay, so you've received yours. Okay, so that's promising. Maybe they're on their way, but I will still chase it up with the lady who looks after the booklets down at Diabetes Vic, because you should have sent those, because I asked them to be sent out the day after our session 1. So 2 weeks they should have been received. But no, you don't need to chase that up. I will chase that up. It is it would have been good to be able to have them to look at whilst we're doing the session, but it's not, it is fine. You can just do it as you, when you do get them. There's some good sort of pictures and things in there for Fibre and things. I'll touch on those so then you guys can have a look properly when you do actually get your booklets. So tonight is session 2, and it's all about nutrition. You guys know the rules. Arrive in sessions on time. I need to follow my own rules. Being 3 minutes late. Mobile to silent. Everyone chance to ask questions. Stick to the topic. Let me know if you can't make the session, which the people who can't come tonight did, so that was good. You guys know those rules. Right, session 2 overview. So tonight we're going to be talking about the facts about fat. about fibre, about salt, about sugar. We'll touch a little bit on alcohol. We'll do our food label reading activity, touch on eating habits, and then also talking about sort of goal setting and how you can plan for your healthy eating goals. When we all did our introductory sessions, we all me with you guys, we sort of touched on a dietary goal to be working towards. So just keep those in your mind too. Just like Anne said, you know, trying to include a bit more protein in each of her meals. So that's a good one for Anne to be working on. So the life goals in general, though, what we're sort of working towards doing as a collective over the next 12 months is decrease the amount of fat that you eat. So decrease the total amount of fat that you eat by 30%. And more specifically, reducing the amount of saturated and trans fats that you eat. We really love the polyunsaturated and the monounsaturated fats. They're our sort of good fats. So we're trying to significantly reduce the amount of saturated and trans fats. We want to also increase the amount of fibre that we're eating and decrease the amount of salt. We're all going to be trying to increase the amount of physical activity that we're doing. And if all those goals are happening, then what will happen is we will reduce our weight, if that's one of your goals that you're trying to work towards as well. So, of course, the benefits to healthy eating are endless. We know that there are so many benefits to healthy eating. So, of course, if you are somebody who is focusing on healthy eating, what will happen is your risk of obesity will decrease, your body weight will decrease, your insulin resistance will decrease. So that will mean we'll be reducing your risk of diabetes. Your total cholesterol will reduce, your serum triglycerides, which is the type of fatty cholesterol that builds in your system when you're having a lot of saturated fat in your diet, will decrease, and also your blood pressure in turn will also decrease. So combining a healthy eating with an active lifestyle, you get all those benefits. Now, this slide is just sort of in here just to sort of remind everyone, I suppose, about the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating. I'm sure everyone has seen it before. It's just basically like a big pie showing where you should be eating most from. And of course, it's showing you veggies and your grains, and also sort of what you should be sort of having plenty of, but a smaller amount, and then what you should be having the least amount of, which is the sort of discretionary products such as, you know, hot chips and lollies and soft drink and all the rest of it. But unfortunately in Australia, what tends to happen is those discretionary foods tend to be some of the biggest part of the pie. So that's what we need to try and reduce, is to swap in and out what we might be eating too much of, reducing that, but increasing the amount of really good quality foods such as veggies and grains and fruits and dairies and that type of thing. Now, it's always a really important one just to make mention that we all sort of know this. Like, I wouldn't imagine there'd be anyone in Australia who would have no clue about this or be super shocked to see this. But it's still hard to do, and it's hard for lots and lots and lots of different reasons for each and every one of us. So as much as it's really important to know what to do, the doing of it can be the most hard part. So this is just a bit of an overview, just a bit of a refresher that this is what we should be eating the most of. And of course, one of the most important things is drinking plenty of water. Okay, so the facts about fat. You should only eat a small amount of fat because this will help control your weight, and in turn will also reduce your risk of diabetes, stroke, and heart disease. Okay, so we know that about fat. We know that a diet high in fats is going to mean your risk of developing those lifestyle-related diseases will significantly go up. So in terms of trying to avoid saturated fat, okay, which is like the number one bad fat that we're trying to reduce significantly, easy ways to sort of try and cut out the saturated fat is when we look at fatty cuts of meat. So I would have asked you in your questionnaires about, do you eat the skin on chicken? The skin on the chicken is full of saturated fat. Do you cut off the white meat off your the white fat off your red meat? Again, nothing but saturated fat in that white fat on red meat. So really important, those fatty cuts of meat, that we reduce and trim the fat where we can. High fat dairy items can have saturated fat in them. I want to sort of err a little bit on the side of, if weight loss is your number one goal, then perhaps swapping to low fat dairy would be a good way for you to try and reduce some of the saturated fat. A lot of people do just prefer the taste of low fat dairy, and that's no worries at all. Where, like for me and my family though, I've got young children, so we do still consume full cream dairy. So for each person, there will be different reasons as to why you choose what you choose. If you're a female and you're over the age of 50, then osteoporosis is a really important thing for you to be aware of. So making sure that you're always having a really high calcium milk is really important as well. So do what works for you and your family, of course. But if weight loss is your number one goal, then swapping to low fat dairy can be helpful. Coconut oil. Coconut oil is something that was put out in the media and everyone was guzzling it because they thought it was going to do wonders for them. But in reality, coconut oil is full of saturated fat. So if you are, the best oil to be using is an olive oil, an extra virgin olive oil. So if you're somebody that is using a lot of coconut oil at the moment, look to swap it out for a better type of oil, because coconut oil is full of saturated fat. Of course, we know deep fried foods, full of saturated fat, and your processed snacks. So bags of chips and the baked goods at supermarkets and those types of things are all going to be full of saturated fat. On the flip side is our healthier fat. So these are the fats that are really important for us and we really should be trying to eat more of. And they are the monounsaturated and the polyunsaturated. So examples of where we can find those is avocados, nuts, fatty fish like salmon and mackerel and those types of things, olive oil, like we just sort of spoke about, seeds. Seeds have got really good fats in them as well. So these are our sort of good quality fats that we don't want to be cutting out entirely. And just like it says there, replace foods high in saturated fat with foods with polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats. So the saturated fats and the trans fats are those in which we should be sort of having just a very sort of small amount of, but then monounsaturated and polyunsaturated are good options. Okay. So let me just check. I'll keep referring back to my booklet just to give you guys, so when you do get this, it does touch on, at the start of the session, it does touch on more ways on how to include mono and polyunsaturated and better ways, and also how to reduce your saturated and trans fats. So tonight I'll sort of glaze over all of it, and then you'll be able to go back and do your reading and to sort of really break it down. There's quite a good picture here about watch the fats that you eat and some good diagrams and things. Okay, so this will sort of reinforce the information that we're going through tonight as well. So dietary fiber. Fiber has been really heavily analysed in the last sort of few years, and it just is the most wonderful thing, and it is doing so much more benefit to our bodies than we ever sort of realised or could quite possibly understand. So that's why now one of our big focuses in this program is to increase your dietary fiber, because not only is it wonderful for reducing your risk of lifestyle-related disease, but it's also so good for your gut. The enzymes in your gut love fiber and love you eating fiber from a wide range of foods. So if you're somebody that has some gut sort of trouble or gut challenges, increasing the fiber content of your diet can be really, really helpful. And not to mention also, fiber is a really good stool bulker. So it basically it enables your bowels to produce much better poos, basically. So that's really, really important and really good just for sort of making your day more manageable when you're not having to worry about feeling constipated or having diarrhea or those types of things. So fiber is so incredibly important, and I cannot stress enough that we all should be eating a lot more fiber than we are. So yes, it is so important for good health. It's all high fiber foods are also really filling. So they provide bulk, so they fill up your stomach, so you feel fuller for longer. And that also then means that it satisfies your appetite. And so what we find is that people who are eating a diet high in fiber don't tend to get to later on in the day and then overeat because they're starving, because they're feeling empty. Those people that are eating more fiber are feeling fuller for longer, more satisfied, and not needing to overeat as such. So a rule for everyone to follow basically is 30 different plant foods each and every week and 30 grams of fiber per day. So it's a 30-30 rule. Okay. So when I say 30 different plants each and every week, a plant food is any food that comes from the ground. So it could be rice, it could be fruits and vegetables, seeds and nuts and grains and noodles and anything that comes from the ground, tofu, soybeans, anything. But we want you to be eating 30 different types of plants because it's this variety and diversity which your gut loves and your body loves. So if you're somebody that always goes to the supermarket and grabs a red capsicum, broccoli, a bag, an iceberg lettuce, and that's it for the week, even if you just go for a yellow capsicum and you go for some broccolini and you get some baby spinach instead this week, mixing it up is super, super important. So if you're somebody that's in a bit of a rut about the same old veggies, same old fruit each and every week, really try to mix it up because diversity is the most important thing. Okay. Now, 30 grams of fiber per day is a fair bit. And basically no one in Australia is eating this much fiber. So it is a hard target, but it's definitely worth trying to work towards. Okay. So I've just given you some examples there that 1 cup of brown rice has about 4 grams. A pear has about 5.5 grams. 1 cup of chopped up broccoli, about 5 grams. Wholemeal spaghetti. Now, most people, when I ask them that question in the introductory session to say, do you ever have wholemeal pasta instead of white pasta? Everyone says, no, it's yuck. I don't want to eat that. But wholemeal pasta is one of the easiest ways to get your fiber intake really sky high because it's got a lot of fiber in it, which is great. So if you had a piece of fruit on your, let's say you had some Wheat Bix for brekkie with a bit of yogurt and milk and you chopped up some banana, that's a really good high fiber start to the day. And then you might have some wholemeal biscuits with peanut butter on them or something for morning tea. Great, some more fiber. Then you're going to have a salad sandwich, or you might have a salad with some tuna and chickpeas or something. Again, then you're getting a lot of good fiber. And then for dinner, you're having your cooked veggies and a piece of meat or something like that. So it's just making sure that every time you sit down to eat, that you're adding some color, that you're putting something into your bowl, your plate, your hand, whatever it is that's got that fiber. It's that plant source, okay? So just like Anne said before about adding protein to everything, I also want you to be adding fiber to everything, okay? Because it will make a world of difference for managing your weight, for your risk of diabetes, for making you feel fuller for longer. Your bowels will feel better. There's so many benefits, okay? So if you do nothing else for the next 12 months, but all you do is increase your fiber intake, I'll be thrilled. That would be a wonderful start, okay? Back in the day, these are quite old slides now. So back in the day, we used to go on about the difference between soluble and insoluble fiber. There is a small difference, but fiber is fiber. And basically, if you're consuming enough of it, it will reduce your blood cholesterol and help to control your blood glucose levels. And like I've been saying, really, really important for your bowels. But it can help to reduce your risk of some cancers as well, to do with your bowels and your colon and your rectum. So that's so many benefits. Okay, so facts about sodium. So for our bodies to work at their best, they really only need a very, very small amount of sodium. But in Australia, we are all consuming way too much salt and sodium, okay? So the reason why too much sodium is a problem is because it leads to high blood pressure. It has also been very thoroughly linked to heart conditions, heart failure, heart problem risk, and not to mention kidney problems, stroke, just to name a few. The Japanese are salt lovers, of course, because they eat a lot of soy sauce and a lot of their food products are really high in sodium and salt. And they have a really high rate of stomach cancer due to the amount of sodium and salt which is in their diet. So we know that it's not doing great things for us. So absolutely, it's something that we need to be more cautious of. So really, everyone should be having no more than 1 teaspoon of salt per day. Now, it's not a lot of salt. It's not a lot of salt. Now, of course, we can't see a lot of the salt, and salt is the flavor in foods. So we need to be really mindful and trying not to sort of consume a lot of processed foods, because processed foods are where a lot of the salt lies. Not to mention breads. So in Australia, we now sort of control the amount of salt in which companies can put into bread. So that's one step. However, we've still got a long way to go. Breads are still a real hiding spot for a lot of sodium. So are cereals. We find that a lot of the processed cereals have got a lot of sodium in them. And again, it's just to provide flavor. It's just to give it more flavor. So if you're somebody that has salt on your dinner table and then you add more salt to your food, it's a really good habit to try and break, because generally the food that you're eating that's in front of you will already have plenty of salt in it. So to then add more salt, of course, we're just causing more of a hassle and more of an issue. So when we are looking at food labels, and you can actually do this now, just to look at the sodium content, we want to try, so on every single nutrition panel you'll see there, it'll generally say sodium. Some might say salt, but generally it'll say sodium. And a good rule of thumb is to look at the average quantity per 100 grams. So here I've got per 100 grams of condensed milk, there is 100 milligrams of sodium. So a rule of thumb is less than 400 milligrams per 100 gram of product. So this is considered a low salt product, because there is only 100 milligrams per 100 gram of this product. Okay. If you have a product that's got more than 400 milligrams of sodium per 100 gram of product, can you tell me? Has anyone got a product that's got more than 400 milligrams? No, I can see shaking heads. Carolina, yeah. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Yes, Vegemite.
Yes. How many milligrams of sodium per 100 grams does Vegemite have?
Lots. 1,980 milligrams per 100 grams. So
Yeah. So nearly 2,000 milligrams.
yeah.
Yeah. So Vegemite is basically just salt spread. We can basically call it that. So the health guidelines say that we should be consuming products that only have less than 400 milligrams of salt per 100 gram of product. So it's so interesting because, like, of course, you know, Vegemite we see as quite a, I mean, we're also not going to be eating 100 grams of Vegemite. Like, that is a lot of Vegemite. And it was probably just burn your tongue. But it's important to start to become a little bit more familiar with what your nutrition labels are actually telling you, because it can be quite surprising. So Vegemite, yes, is a well-known salty spread, but just goes to show how much saltier it is, you know, than what the recommendations suggest. So that's just a good rule of thumb. Less than 400 milligrams per 100 gram of product. Okay, so start to get familiar with some of your products that you like to eat.
Just one more comment. This is the lower salt version. This is a 40% less salt version of Vegemite.
So imagine what the full one would be. So high, so high. That's right. And that's the lowest salt version of it. So it's worrying how much would be in an actual full salt. Thanks, Carolina. Okay, we'll do more on the nutrition panel. I just wanted to highlight that rule of thumb for the sodium intake content per product. So, facts about sugar. Not a lot of years ago, but sort of a few years ago now, the big thing was quitting sugar entirely. You know, everyone was saying we had to quit sugar and never have any of it. Now, thank goodness, the advice is not that you have to quit it entirely, because that's impossible. And everyone wants to eat birthday cake every now and again, and wants to sort of live a nice, fun life occasionally. So it's certainly, I would never recommend anyone cut sugar out entirely. However, it's important to note that we do need to be mindful about how much sugar we are consuming, where sugar tends to hide, but also the difference between the two different types of sugars. So we refer to them as naturally occurring sugars, okay? And then we refer to them as added sugars. So naturally occurring sugars are sugars that are found in foods that haven't been manufactured. So we're talking about fruits, we're talking about dairy products like milks and yogurts and that type of thing, vegetables, legumes. There's so many products out there that have naturally occurring sugars. Banana, if somebody has said to you, don't eat a banana because they've got too much sugar in them, it's a correct statement in that banana has sugar in it, yes, but banana also has fiber and wonderful minerals and nutrients and things that are so good for you. So yes, there's some sugar in it, but that's just a good bit of energy that sometimes we really need. It's not a fair statement to say you must avoid all bananas now because they've got sugar in them, because the naturally occurring sugars, these products have a little bit of sugar in them, sure, but they also come with a whole gamut of other wonderful products that our bodies really, really need. So there is no need to be fearful of naturally occurring sugars, okay? We need them in our diet. Our brain only uses glucose, which is a type of sugar, as its energy source. So we have to have these foods. Otherwise we get, if anyone's tried to cut out carbohydrates as a way of dieting, we all know that all that happens is you just feel really crappy. You feel really angry and tired and moody and not very happy with the world and pretty hard to be around because you're hungry and because your brain can't use anything but glucose, which is a carbohydrate. When it comes to added sugars, this is a different thing. So added sugars are sugars that are added to a product during the manufacturing process. And generally speaking, they're added in large amounts. So it's not just a little bit of sugar that we're adding, we're putting a whole lot in. Because again, just like the sodium, sugar is a flavor enhancer. So the manufacturers want us to buy their products. The sweeter, the saltier, the more fat in it, the tastier it is. Therefore, we want more of it. And we're going to buy more of it. So the thing with products that have got a lot of added sugar in them is that they generally have no other important nutrients. So like you can see the examples there, we're talking about things like soft drinks, we're talking about confectionery, we're talking about ice creams and lollies and, biscuits and cakes and those types of really sugary, sweet things that, we can still eat, but we just have to be a little bit mindful about how much we're eating, what the portions are and how frequently we're eating them. So another rule of thumb when we talk about sugar is, generally speaking, for adults, we should be having around 6 to 8 teaspoons of added sugar per day. Now, 1 teaspoon equates to around 4 grams. Okay, so just to put this into sort of perspective, a 600 ml bottle of Coke has around 16 teaspoons of added sugar. Okay, so that's pretty well doubled what we should be having in a day. Things like like tomato sauce, like if you go and buy a thing of tomato sauce to have on sausages or on meat or something like that, that is a standard bottle of tomato sauce that you buy from the supermarket has around 36 teaspoons of sugar in it. So your condiments and those types of things are full of added sugar. So because again, it's like a preserving mechanism. If anyone's made homemade jam or homemade sauce before, you need so much sugar. Basically, it's 1 kilo of fruit to 1 kilo of sugar. It's the same kind of thing when you are buying sauces or sweet chili sauce or barbecue sauce or anything like that, nothing but added sugar. So it's a good one to get familiar with, because when you start looking at labels, you can get a bit of an idea as to how many teaspoons of sugar is in it. So if a product has 24 grams of added sugar in it, you can divide it by 4, and then you will get the answer 6, and you'll know that there's around 6 teaspoons of added sugar in this, and I should be having only 6 for the day. So would I eat it or not? So it's just a really good rule of thumb to sort of get your head around that 4 grams of sugar is equal to 1 teaspoon, and we should all be having no more than around 6 to 8 teaspoons of added sugar per day. Now, the same rule does not apply to naturally occurring sugars, because again, we want you to be eating loads of fruits and vegetables and milks and breads and beans and all those things. So there's no restriction on those. It's more so with the added sugars, okay? Because we know you're not really getting anything else for it when you do eat those types of foods. They taste good, sure, but they don't really give you any nutritional bang for buck. Now, alcohol, alcohol obviously is not really doing anyone any favors. Do we need to go and not have any alcohol ever? No, again, it's not what I recommend. I think people sometimes they like to have a drink. Sometimes people don't like to have a drink at all. It's fine. Whatever works for you. However, it's just important to note that the recommendations are no more than 10 standard drinks in a week, and that when you are consuming alcohol, that you make sure that you're having at least 1 or 2 alcohol-free days per week. So you don't want to be having alcohol every single day of the week, because it does tend to put a lot of strain on your filtering organs, such as your liver and things like that. So alcohol is a high in energy and it is low in nutrients. So it doesn't have much in it, basically, because of course it is just the alcohol. And alcohol is a toxin. So our bodies don't enjoy alcohol. As soon as we consume alcohol, it has to start breaking it up and breaking it down, because it has no use for it. If you are somebody who does like to have the odd glass of alcohol, then definitely trying to avoid the high sugar mixes is the best thing. So I'm talking like a rum and Coke or a vodka and raspberry. You want to be avoiding the mixes drinks, because that's where you're then going to be having the alcohol, which is a toxin, but also all of the added sugars, which we've just spoken about. So definitely having a low alcohol beer is a really, really good option, or a small glass of wine or something like that is fine. But again, making sure that you're having those days off between, that you're not having more than a couple of standard drinks in a sitting, and that you're also drinking plenty of water, just to sort of keep you also really hydrated at the same time. So alcohol is a really personal thing. Some people don't drink it at all. Some people probably drink way too much, but working out what's right for you and your body is incredibly important. So looking at our products that we've all gone and got. So by law, what has to happen is manufacturers must put a nutrition panel on their product. Okay, so they must do that by law. What they also must do is have a per serving column and also a per 100 gram column. Okay, now when we are comparing nutrients, we want to look at the per 100 gram column, because as you can imagine, it is the manufacturer that decides what a serving of their product is. So, for example, when you might see a tub of ice cream, they'll say, let's say the tub of ice cream is, I don't even know what, let's say it's this big. They'll say there's 40 servings in this tub. And we all know that there's no way there's that many servings. There's probably about 6 servings in it when we actually sit down and serve ourselves, because they want to show that their product in that per serving column looks really good, So they want people to look at the per serving and say, oh, well, if I just have a serving of this ice cream, it's actually really low in sugar. It's actually really low in saturated fat. Yeah, when you eat about this much ice cream, it is. But when you eat the amount of ice cream that you like to eat, it's generally a lot more than that. So that's why we always like to compare the per 100 gram column, because that's a more accurate representation of the product, okay, and what we're actually getting. So they also have to include an ingredients list, and ingredients are listed in order of quantity, so from largest to smallest. So my product here is sweetened condensed milk, and my number one ingredient is milk. So that's reassuring. At least I know that, you know, it is majority of this product is actually milk. So that's good, because that's what I would expect. If you pick up a product and its number one property or number one ingredient is like rice malt syrup or something, then basically that's just saying this product is full of sugar, because the first ingredient in the list is a syrup, is a sugar. So it's a good one just to have a bit of a look at as well, just to sort of get an idea as to, is this product just full of crappy stuff, or is it actually full of what it should be full of, basically. So when we look at a nutrition panel, like I said, we can look at the per serving and then look at that per 100 gram. So things that will always be on there is energy. Now, again, just like referring to the calorie stuff, energy is really tricky because it doesn't really tell us a whole lot, because we all have very different energy levels, and we are all burning off very different amounts of energy depending on our sex, our age, our height, our muscle mass, our everything. So energy is not very helpful, okay? I'm much more interested in the fat breakdown. So generally speaking, it'll say fat total, and then you'll get a drop down where it says fat saturated. Okay. So this, and if there's any trans fats in there, it will also have to, by law, specify if there's a percentage of trans fats. Okay. Now, I just want to mention this too. When you get your booklet, at the very back of it, there's this little bit here. And in there is this really good card, okay? So what it says is your at-a-glance guide to healthier food shopping, okay? And then on the back of it is a traffic light. Is that back to front for you guys though? There is a list of best, pretty good, not so good, okay? So then you can do a direct comparison. So for example, and it's always comparing 100 grams, okay? So we want to see that our saturated fat content is less than 1.5 grams per 100 gram of product, okay? Now, I can already tell you that my condensed milk has got 5 grams of saturated fat per 100 grams. So that puts me into a poor choice, because anything over 3 grams of saturated fat puts me into a poor choice column. So it's basically saying, look, it's not ideal. Okay. Does anyone have a product that has less than 1.5 grams of saturated fat per 100 gram of product?
I've got milk.
Mm-hmm.
So that was only because they had the biggest thing. I could see the signs. So saturated is 0.9 grams per 100 mils.
Excellent. That's great. And it works both. So even if it's grams or mils, it's still the 100 gram or 100 mil column. So that's perfect, Anne. Excellent. And is that a low fat milk? Did I see?
Or light, whatever.
A light. Yep. Yep. Perfect. Excellent. Can anyone beat my 5 grams of saturated fat per 100 gram of product? Yeah. Liani, what have you got?
15.7, I think.
What is the product?
No, 14.6 grams per 100 grams.
What is the food product?
That's butter.
Butter.
Light butter. Only.
Yeah. So that's right. So that is high in saturated fat, isn't it? So it might be that the next time you go to the supermarket, you compare labels and opt for one that has a lower saturated fat content, because that would then overall provide you less fat, which is what we're trying to work towards. Okay, and then what you'll also see is a carbohydrate line. Okay, so carbohydrates are a sugar. So the sugars fall into the carbohydrate column as such. So it'll say carbohydrate and then it will say sugars underneath. Now the sugars are the added sugars. Okay, so what we want to see in that sugars line is less than 5 grams. A best choice is less than 5 grams of added sugar per 100 gram of product. Does anyone have that? I would almost say that Carolina will, because she's got Vegemite. There's not much sugar in that. Yep. Okay, Giuseppe, what have you got?
Yeah, I've just got some original water crackers there.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Perfect.
So it's reading at about 2.8 added sugars, 2.8 grams. Yeah.
Perfect. Yes. And that's as we would expect. So there's not much sugar in those biscuits. That's good. Let me blow your hair back, everyone, because I have got in my condensed milk, I have got 55 grams of added sugar per 100 gram of product. So it is high in sugar and in saturated fat. But again, like we do have to err with, like, it's very good to get used to what your labels are telling you. But if I was to, I use this to make slices for my children for lunch and smoko and all that kind of stuff. So never am I sitting down and consuming this whole can of condensed milk by itself. So we do have to err on a little bit of sensibility. Perhaps I might look at buying the lighter version of this instead. I might go and compare those labels and see if the lighter version is a lot better, because that is a lot of sugar and there's a lot of fat in this as well. So as much as reading the nutrition panels is so good, it's wonderful because you get to really learn what's inside a product. It's really important too, just to sort of err on the side of, sensibility as well. So this little card will be really helpful for you when you do next go to the supermarket. And it can take a little while, just whilst you're getting to know the products that you like to buy. But once you've done the comparison and once you can sort of see that, oh, actually this butter is a better butter than this one, or this margarine is better, or the lighter condensed milk is better than this, then it becomes a lot faster when you do go around the supermarket. But initially it can be a bit slow whilst you do compare labels, but a really helpful tool, because getting to know exactly what is in your foods is your best form of defense against secret, sneaky marketing, because it can be really confusing out there, because they want to show that it's a really great product. They want you to pick it up and they want you to buy it. So it's not until you turn it around and look at the nutrition panel do you actually start to know what is really in these food products. Okay. So
I've got a question, Katie.
Yes, go for it.
If I've got gluten-free Wheat Bix here, so if I was choosing, I don't know, it's a bit confusing because the saturated fat is 4.4
per 100
grams, so that's bad.
Yep.
The added sugar is 8.1, so that's not great either. But the sodium is good. It's only 178.
Good.
And the fiber is 7.6 per 100, so I guess that's good. So then would I choose this as a good grain, or
yeah
like, do you know what I mean?
Are you having gluten-free because someone's celiac?
I'm a celiac,
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no worries. So, well, then you have to go that product. I mean, really, I think in terms of the other benefits that because we look at a food product in its entirety. So, yes, the saturated fat is probably a little bit high, which I don't really know why that saturated fat would be like that. Is that with milk? Do they specify that it's 100 grams with milk?
Looking at the ingredients, I'm wondering if it's because of the coconut. It's got desiccated coconut. 5%?
Yes, it will be because of the coconut. Definitely. So it might be worthwhile you just getting a plain gluten-free Wheat Bix. Yeah. And then adding your own flavor to it, because it won't actually, like, it will say coconut, but it will be like yeah, it will be like, it's not like fresh coconut where you're getting the added benefit of the fiber and things. So you'd be better off getting the plain wheat bix, but then adding your own fresh fruit to it. So then the saturated fat will come down, but then you'll also be able to add more fiber to it in terms of with your fresh fruit and that type of thing. But yeah, this is the thing, like, it's not like you think, oh, this looks like a really good product, and it like, that still is a good product because you're still getting good amounts of fiber, the sugar is low, the salt is low, you know, so that's all really positive. But if we could get away with not having the saturated fat, that would be even better. So yeah, but no, an interesting product. That's good looking at. Thanks, Dana. So this is just basically that same card that I've shown you. So this will be in your booklet when you do get a chance to have a look at it. And just like we've spoken about, we want to be comparing the 100 grams column. That's the most important thing of when we're looking at it. So this is a little bit more. So in Australia, we brought in the Health Star rating system, which has had a little bit of critique. People don't sort of, you know, it's good and it's bad. It's good. It's on the front of the packaging. So that can be helpful for people when choosing a product. The thing is, though, with this is that it's not mandatory. So products don't have to use the Health Star rating. So as you would assume, generally it's only the products that really want you to see that it's a healthy product will use this Health Star rating. You're certainly not going to get condensed milk putting a Health Star rating on it because it would be so poor. And it's a little bit confusing because they say, you know, that like Milo cereal is a high star rating, which we all know it's not. It's full of sugar and things. So there is a little bit of confusion around the way in which people use it. So it's not a bad option, but just to be a bit cautious when you are sort of trying to use that. Food Switch, though, is a really good app. If you're into apps, Food Switch is a good one because it actually allows you to scan the barcodes of products with your phone of packaged foods. But then what it does is that it gives you a traffic light breakdown of the nutritional quality of it. So it'll come back to you and say saturated fat is high, sugar is low, the salt is high, and then it will suggest other products for you to use instead that might be better. So for example, it would probably say with condensed milk, try the lighter version, or if you buy this margarine, try this one instead. So it is quite a good app. Again, it can take a little while, you know, to go around the supermarket scanning everything, but once you've done it a few times, then it is really easy. I use this one still because when I'm buying, you know, new foods that I haven't tried before, just to have a quick summary, it's a good one like that. So yeah, so Food Switch, I do quite like that one. When you are eating, it's small changes can genuinely make a big difference. I'm very much against totally overhauling people's diets and making it hard for them. We need to make small, sustainable, little steps, little changes. So even just like I said, even if all you take away from tonight is I'm going to increase my fiber, I'm going to have that second piece of fruit every single day, fantastic. I'm thrilled with that. So eating a wide variety of foods is absolutely number one. It's all about inclusion, not exclusion. We don't want to be cutting out whole food groups like carbohydrates. We want to be including more variety, including more vegetables and fruits and whole grains and all those foods that are so good for us. Again, yeah, a really simple one might be to swap out into low-fat milk instead of full cream milk. Be mindful of your portion control. Now, portion control is a really big one for a lot of people because it's hard to, know how much you need to eat. I will talk more about this in session 5, but at the moment, just to touch on portion control, a really good acronym which I love to use is the HALT acronym, which is there, the HALT. So basically, if you're somebody who you identify with the idea of, I eat when I'm not hungry, I eat when I'm emotional, or I eat when I'm tired, or I eat when I'm bored. If you're somebody that uses food as an emotional thing, HALT is a really good one. So basically, when you think, oh, I want something to eat, you say HALT and you say, right, am I hungry? Am I anxious? Am I a bit wound up? Am I a bit sort of agitated? Am I lonely? Am I just feeling really flat? Am I just feeling really sort of a bit sad and a bit upset? Or am I tired? Now, if you are anything but H for hungry, you don't eat. You basically find another strategy, something else that will help to comfort you, because really a lot of people use food as a comforter, and at times that's okay. But if that's your main system for looking for support, it's not a sustainable one. We need to be trying other things. It might be a shower, a bath. It might be calling a particular friend. It might be going for that walk. It might be totally removing yourself from the situation. But investigating other strategies is really, really important, because if you just continue to rely on food for that comfort, it's not going to end well, because it's generally a bit of a vicious cycle, because you have the food, then you feel annoyed, then you feel guilty, then you feel annoyed again and angry and frustrated. So the food feels like it's going to fix it, but generally speaking, it doesn't. We need other ways in which to help the emotional issues going on for us. So, of course, healthy habits, eating, combining with physical activity. Sometimes if you're somebody who loves to cook, there's a couple of recipes in this talking about swapping out different ingredients to make sort of like a normal lasagna into a sort of healthier lasagna. So just looking at, you might, if you're somebody that likes to have the sort of white sauce in a lasagna, you can swap that out and have ricotta instead. Ricotta is like a lighter sort of, still gives that white creaminess, but it's just a lighter version. So using healthier cooking methods rather than deep frying or shallow frying. Stir fry, roasting, baking, steaming, microwaving, grilling, all just really nice options in terms of, cooking, but not using a lot of fats and saturated fat. Air fryer, I personally don't have one, but I know how popular they are now. Everyone seems to be using air fryers a lot. So if that's something that you like to do, that's great as well. This is just a really loose example of what a healthy, balanced day on a plate might look like for you. Of course, this is not something that you need to sort of abide by. This is just a bit of a general rule of thumb. So you might wake up and you'll have a high fibre brekkie, like we sort of had touched on. So whether that be porridge or muesli or all bran or something like that, lots of fibre to start your day. You have some fresh fruit on top as well, a couple of tablespoons of mixed seeds, chopped nuts, and then you might also like to add some yogurt. So the yogurt is the protein source, so that's going to keep you feeling fuller for longer. Morning tea, you might have coffee or tea or something like that. You're going to have your second piece of fruit for the day. You might have some dry biscuits. You might have peanut butter or cheese and Vegemite or some avocado or whatever it might be that you like. Lunch, you might have some leftovers from dinner or a salad roll or a salad wrap, sandwich, something like that, something simple, but something you can add in loads of veggies and salad too. As it's starting to get cooler, you might like to make a big thing of soup. Have that for lunch instead, whatever you like. Afternoon tea, you might have some chopped up veggies like capsicum or celery or cucumber and have it with a dip. Hummus is a great one. Tzatziki is another one. Salsa is another really good option as well. And then for dinner, you're going to do the plate like we said. You're going to have half of your plate full of veggies and salad, quarter of the plate with protein, quarter of the plate with the whole grains. Some general rules: eating regularly is super duper important. Don't let big gaps of time go through the day without eating, because otherwise you will just eventually end up overeating at some point, generally later on in the day. Drinking plenty of water is super duper important. And of course, eating a wide variety of fruits and veggies is also so important. Sorry, Carolina, do you want to take a photo of that? Oh, hang on. Oh, no. Hang on, Carolina. Now I've wrecked it. Okay, there you go. Sorry, everyone else, while I had to go flicking through all of those. Oh, no. Okay. I will talk faster now. It's 8 o'clock already. That's okay. Okay, so keeping to your goals, just like we sort of said at the very, very start, a goal that is not helpful is, I will lose weight. How are you going to do that? What are you going to do? You need it to be more specific, okay? So I'm going to have a high fibre brekkie every single day for the next 4 weeks, or I'm going to swap low fat into my diet with my dairy choices, or I'm always going to make sure that I have 2 pieces of fruit every single day for the next however long. Okay, so make the goals realistic. Don't put the pressure on yourself to simply lose weight, because that's a really hard goal to try and action. Okay. Ideas for setting your healthy eating goals. So experiment with low-fat cooking methods. Go easy on fried foods, of course. Spread your margarine, spread your butter quite thinly. Use avocado instead. Avocado is a great option. Buy lean cuts of meat and trim off all the fat. Don't eat the chicken skin. It's full of saturated fat. Using a small amount of margarine and oil. Really reduce the amount of palm oil and coconut oil that you're eating if you do have a lot of it. And go for the low-fat milks, yogurts, and cheeses where you can. These websites are quite good for looking for recipes. So the CSIRO Total Wellbeing Diet is a really, really good place. It's got loads of good recipes. They've actually got good cookbooks as well, which I like. They're simple, easy, good for weeknight meals. Live Lighter, the Diabetes Victoria website, that's where those little cards come from. Live Lighter have got some really good resources and recipes. Another good website is the Eating Well website. But if you have any that you come across that you like to use, or you've got recipes or cookbooks that you like to use, please feel free to share them with me, because I'm always happy to share that information with the group as well. So if there's anything that you like to use, by all means, let me know and I will happily share them with everybody. Increasing your fibre intake. Include your high fibre cereals, your Wheat Bix, your muesli, your porridge, that kind of stuff, and your breads with grains. If you're having white bread at home, please swap it to a wholemeal or a multigrain. We need to get those whole grains into our diet. Aim for 5 different veggies every single day. Variety is key, and your 2 pieces of fruit every single day. If you're not already, see where you can add some legumes into your diet. Every time I use mincemeat, I always add a can of brown lentils to it, because you can't tell. Like it doesn't make any taste difference. We would have bolognese in my family probably once a week, really, because my daughters love it. And I will always add a can of brown lentils to that. They don't know. It doesn't, you can't taste it. It's just an added bit of fiber, which I love. If you're having Mexican, always add some kidney beans. Hummus is a really good way to get chickpeas in. So there's lots of different ways you can be having your legumes, but try to have them each week. Decreasing your salt intake. Stop using salt at the table. Just use it when you're cooking. Try to opt for the low salt option, just like Carolina was with her Vegemite. No salt or reduced salt. Look at those options. Read your food labels and use other flavors in your food, like garlic and lemon and fresh herbs and spices. It doesn't always have to be salt. Okay, there's lots of other ways to make your food taste delicious. Wrapping it up. Small changes make a big, big difference. So there's nothing in here that's crazy. There's nothing in here that's really like, oh, that's so hard. There's no way I could do that. Everyone in this group could do the things that I have discussed tonight. Everybody can do it. It's just about making small steps and small changes. Eating well can be achieved with small diet changes. Healthy eating does not have to be difficult, nor is it about restricting. Not once have I said, please cut out all carbohydrates from your diet. Never, ever. We want to add into your diet, not cut out. Making dietary changes is not a difficult task when broken down. Having a plan to reach your goals will make it more likely that you will succeed. So make a goal, okay? Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. And when I chase up where your books are, you'll be able to go through and read the fact sheets that are at the back of session 2 as well. And they're really quite helpful just to sort of reinforce this learning that we've done tonight. Our next session is in 2 weeks' time, Tuesday, the 19th of April at 7 p.m. Tuesday, the 19th of April at 7 p.m. So jot that down. And again, I will send you an email close to the time on the Friday or the Saturday before that session. And that session will be all things exercise and physical activity. I have spoken enough. Does anyone have any questions? I'm sure you're all just like full to the brim of information. So don't worry too much about if you don't. Yeah, you can send me an email once you've actually had a chance to digest all that information. There's a lot of content in there.
I do have a quick question on sugars.
Yes.
Substitutes especially, because I see there is a list of other names for sugar, including honey and all of that. So I'm just wondering, because it's hard to really eat without any sugar. So what would be an appropriate or less harmful option for sugar? Because you know that you can find many like stevia and other things in the market. So I'm not sure what could be something that we could use.
What's an example of where you would, because I don't want you to be trying to cut out sugar. That's definitely not what I want you to be doing. So are you talking about like, where would you be adding sugar that you would need a replacement?
It's not a lot. Sometimes for coffee, a bit of sugar, like 1 teaspoon, or the from time to time we cook a cake.
Yeah.
But it's not very often that could happen.
Yeah. So those are two good examples. So with the coffee or tea, if you are somebody that's having 1 teaspoon of sugar or more in your hot drinks, and let's say you're having 3 or 4 cups of tea or coffee per day, then absolutely you need to start looking at reducing the amount of sugar you're putting in. So it's not even about having a different type of sugar. It's more so about reducing the quantity. So if you're somebody that has a full teaspoon of sugar in every hot drink, I want you to start by going to half a teaspoon of sugar, because your taste buds just start to, they just like what they know, I suppose. So if you're somebody who's always used to having 1 teaspoon of sugar in every hot drink, then that's what your taste buds will like. So you need to retrain them to reduce, to not need like as much sugar. So that's just about practice and just about cutting down to half. So I wouldn't even, it's much more important, even if you replace it with honey, it's still a source of sugar. So it's still going to have the same impact on your body the same way. So in that instance, look at reducing the portion of what you're actually consuming. And that goes across the board. If you're having, I'm trying to think of places in which you would add sugar like that. But something like a cake, I don't know. I think as I'm getting older, I think I just realized that make the cake. Some recipes you could almost always cut down a recipe by about 1/4 of a cup. So if the recipe says a cup of sugar, I would probably always err on the side of doing 3/4 of a cup of sugar. And it generally doesn't have an impact on the recipe itself. But it's probably a bit of trial and error. But again, it comes down to that same idea of we don't want to cut it out entirely. We just want to reduce the amount of which we're using. So I would just look at places, rather than trying to swap it out and rather trying than going and buying stevia or buying excess, other types of sweeteners. I would just keep doing what you're doing, but reducing the amount that you're consuming where you can. Does that sort of help, Carolina?
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah. Thank you.
No worries. Any other questions, anybody? Again, don't feel you've got to ask in front of the group. You can do it in an email if you'd rather. Now, I have recorded tonight, so I will send this out as well. So if anybody wants to rewatch it or, flick through to the fat section or the fibre part, then by all means you can. So that might be something that you can look at again later on. If there's no other questions, I will let you go because it's been a big hour. And if you do have anything, please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I will, send you an email tomorrow with the link for the recording, okay? Thanks so much, everyone, for all your listening.
Thanks, Kelly. That was really good.
Good. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.